Not much is more satisfying in sports than a player coming back from a really difficult injury to make a major impact for his team. Is Jalen Washington ready to be that guy for Carolina this year behind Armando Bacot? We're going to find out on today's What If Wednesday.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. Joining me as he does every midweek is our guy, Coach Pac Kilby. We want to thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listener watch to get your Tar Heels content every single day. This episode of Locked On Tar Heels is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports book of the Locked On Network. Make every moment more right now. New customers bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. I want to welcome in all you everydayers. Any of you who are not part of our Discord chat yet, where we hang out all week long and talk, come on in and join us. The links are on the show notes. Pac Kilby, how you doing, brother? It is time for another edition of What If Wednesday, where we got some note cards in here with questions on it. What if a certain thing happens? We've done a negative week. We've done a positive week. I think today we're going to have a little mixed bag, Pac Kilby, coming at you. You ready to see what we got coming out of this thing first?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. What if Jalen Washington is ready to be a consistent contributor? Ooh, this is a great question, Pac. What if Jalen Washington is ready to be a consistent contributor for the 23-24 Tar Heels?
Well, that's a huge step in the right direction. I think we all know that the ceiling is the roof for Jalen Washington. No, the sky is the limit for Jalen Washington. He can be really, really good. He can stretch the floor. Coach Davis has praised his shooting ability. We all know he can shoot. He didn't show it as well as we probably would have hoped that he would have last year when he was, 0 of 7 from 3. But we know he has those capabilities, and we know that if he's playing really, really well and he's ready to be a contributor, that is just competitive depth for us. It sounds like, coming out of the FAU scrimmage, some of the reports that I read and that I got were that Jae'lyn played really well. And man, what a positive sign, because having him healthy and able to provide that competitive depth just makes us deeper. It makes us more competitive. It makes practices more competitive. It gives us a big that can stretch the floor. It just gives us a lot of versatility. And so I'm really excited to see how he looks on Friday in the exhibition, and kind of put eyes to all the positive things that we've been hearing about.
Yeah, that's all a bunch of great points. And I love, I think back last year to what team was, it was UConn, the national champions. They had Adamas Sanogo in the post and Donovan Clingan in the post. Sanogo was much more a Bacot type player, where they would have him out there as the starter, would do a bunch of great things, kind of more of bully, more traditional post player. And then Donovan Clingan comes in, and they kind of have a whole different game plan for him. And I like that with Armando and with Jae'lyn, you've got these different skill sets where he can come in, and it's going to force the other team to have to defend in a completely different way. And those kind of wrinkles, man, can be really frustrating for a team. Obviously, Pac, you know that better than I do as someone who's coaching basketball on a consistent basis. And part of this as well is, I think we're starting, you talk so much, Pac, about role definition and how important that is for these young men so that they can know what to expect game in and game out. I think we are finally starting to get a clearer idea, a clearer picture of what Jalen Washington's role is going to be this year. We can't just say Jae'lyn anymore, man. That's tough. But Coach Davis was on John Rothstein's podcast this week. Go check it out if you haven't listened to it. Great stuff. But he talks about how that 4 role that was Brady Manek 2 years ago, Pete Nance last year, in order to get it more to that perimeter oriented, or at least more perimeter capable, it's going to be able to do that this year. And there's three guys that look to fill that role, essentially Harrison Ingram, Jalen Withers, and Zayden High. He specifically mentioned those three by name. Here's what that tells me, Pac, is that means Jalen Washington's minutes are going to chiefly be at the 5, backing up Armando. And I fully believe that he is first off the bench for that position ahead of James Okonkwo. That just makes a bunch of sense. Although, not to say that Okonkwo wouldn't get some minutes if Armando goes out and you're playing DJ Burns from NC State, you might need Okonkwo's beef. But I think we're able to zoom in now and realize that Jalen Washington's minutes are going to be in that low post, which is a new learning experience for him, where he's more often used to kind of floating in and out to the perimeter some. And so, Pac, I mean, what do you think about that idea of some of what Coach Davis was talking about and us getting a clearer picture of his role this year?
Well, two things come to mind. I really like the idea of defining him there in that backup 5 role. I think that's best for his future, both at Carolina and then on to the next level, because I think that's exactly what he'll be doing. And I like your comparison to UConn. And when I look at it, I kind of compare it to football, right? Like, you see a lot of teams, they have a first and second down back, and then it's 3rd and 2, and they bring somebody else in that can go out there and get it done, because it's just a different style. It's something a little bit different.
Maybe a better pass catcher, maybe a better pass pro,
exactly.
Any of that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's, potentially what we're looking at with Bacot and Washington. Bacot's obviously going to be out there most of the time, but Washington comes in and he offers something a little bit different. And it may require opponents to match up a little bit differently to it, because a guy that, could guard Bacot might not be able to guard Washington quite as well, as he's a little bit more perimeter oriented and can stretch the floor and can knock down shots and things of that nature. So I really like it. I like that 1-2 combo that they can offer. And I think it, like I mentioned earlier, just provides us with more versatility, makes us tougher to guard, gives teams different things to plan for. And as you mentioned, role definition, it provides Jae'lyn with some comfort. He knows the role he's going to be playing. And yes, it's going to take some adjustment. It's going to take some getting used to, because he's not a traditional back to the basket 5, but we don't want him to be. We want him to be. We want him to be the opposite of Bacot and be able to provide a different look to our opponents. So I think it's great. I like where he's at, and I, like you, believe he's definitely the first off the bench to fulfill that backup 5 role, and looking forward to seeing how he flourishes in that.
And there, I mean, directly to our question, what if Jalen Washington is ready to be a consistent contributor? We had talked this summer, I think it was in Armando, when we did Armando's preview episode, we talked about how ideally we'd love to get Mondo down to like 27, 28, 29 minutes. And so to directly answer this question, what if Jalen's ready to be a consistent contributor? It achieves that goal of Armando not having to play 30 plus minutes a game, which allows him hopefully to be even more efficient in the minutes he is in. I don't think that diminishes his averages or numbers. I think that makes him more efficient and more capable when he's playing, and the same is true for Jae'lyn. So what if Jalen Washington's ready to be a consistent contributor? It's great for depth, it's great for him, and it's great for Armando. And I think that is great news for the Tar Heels.
And if I can add to that,
please do.
Just with all the talk of Carolina getting back to that traditional pace and turning games into track meets, Armando's going to have to be below 30 minutes if we're truly going to play that pace and that style. And what Jae'lyn can offer, with his ability to rim run and his mobility as a big, plays right into that as well. And so I think that'll be key for us.
Okay, Pac, we are 2 days away from this exhibition game where we will get to see all of this played out against dudes in different jerseys. What a day of rejoicing that will be, to quote an old hymn. So that is our What If Wednesday question number 1. That like hit the camera. Sorry, camera, forgive me, please. Pac, we got 2 more questions in here. We got to get to the next one. We'll see where it's going to take us, and we'll move there in just a second. Right after I tell you that this episode of Locked on Tar Heels is brought to you by Jace Medical. There's so much uncertainty in the world today, and I think it's important for us to all be prepared. And we've seen issues lately like the fires in Maui, unrest in the Middle East, hurricanes and tornadoes in Florida. All of this can lead to things like supply chain shortages for medication or the inability for us to be able to get them in a timely manner. Thankfully, there's the Jace case from Jace Medical, a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. And Jace Medical also now offers you customizability with your Jace case, so you can add on dozens of medications to get just the right fit for your family's unique needs. And in their effort to expand their medication offerings, Jace has recently added ivermectin as a Jace case option. You can even get gift cards for your family or friends so they can get their own Jace case. Wildest stocking stuffer ever. Make it happen. Go to jacemedical.com and enter Locked On at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code Locked On at jasemedical.com. Doctor created, doctor recommended. That's Jace Medical. This episode of Locked On Tar Heels is also brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on all the action. The app is so easy to use, and you can bet on tons of different types of things: spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. In fact, I was just looking earlier today. FanDuel has lines for all of the college basketball conferences of who's going to win the regular season. Go check it out. You're going to want to find that. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Want to also remind you guys that coming up on Friday from 11 a.m. Eastern until noon is Locked On College Football Kickoff Live, getting you ready for all of this weekend's college football action live on our Locked On YouTube page, on Locked On Tar Heels, or any other Locked On College page. Check it out. Get ready for this weekend's college football action. All right, Pac, question number 2. We got them bouncing around. Let's see what we got here. What if number 2? What if? Ooh, interesting. What if RJ and Cormac, RJ Davis, Cormac Ryan, both average 40% from 3, or Elliot Cadeau averages 10 assists a game? Which of these two things would be more impactful? So, Pac, the what if question is, which would be more impactful for North Carolina this season? Elliot Cadeau averaging 10 assists a game, or RJ Davis and Cormac Ryan both averaging 40% from 3? That's an interesting question, my man. And folks, we haven't processed these. We haven't thought through them. So we're processing this in real time right now. Pac, I'll turn it over to you first.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts. For me, I think if you're asking me which one's more impactful,
I am. That's what the card says. Which is more impactful?
RJ and Cormac averaging 40% or more from 3, in my opinion, is the more impactful. And I'll tell you why. I think, not to discount what that would mean if Elliot Cadeau averaged 10 assists per game. But I think we have a team full of guys that are going to be unselfish, selfless, pass-first type of guys. Now, that's not to say they won't look to score, but this group seems to gel really well so far to me. And I think that we can fill that the assist gap that we needed to fill kind of by attrition. Yeah. And so that's my first thought. My second thought as to why I think RJ and Cormac averaging 40% or more would be better for Carolina is that if we're relying on Elliot Cadeau, a freshman guard, to score or to assist on 10 baskets per game, that really scares me. Just putting that much faith in a freshman guard, especially come February or March, man, that concerns me a lot. And not to say that I don't have confidence that he can't get stuff done, because I do, but I just, the shooting that we lacked last year and the amount of shooting that we need to produce this year, man, if you can tell me we have 2 guys shooting 40% from 3, I'm taking that all day long.
I'm with you. As you were processing that, I hadn't heard your reasons yet, but that's what I was leaning towards as well in real time. I'm actually looking up, I was curious, Ed Cota and Kendall Marshall's freshman assist numbers, what they were. Ed gee whiz, as a freshman, oh no, that's per 40 minutes. I was like, good grief, dude. Ed Cota, as a freshman, 6.9 assists per game. Kendall Marshall, as a freshman, averaged 6.2 assists per game. And keeping in mind that Kendall was not the point guard from day one that freshman year. That was LD2, whose full name we shan't divulge here today. And then eventually, Coach Williams had no choice but to put Kendall into the starting lineup. That won't be the case for Elliot. He's going to be learning a little more on the fly. I love your talk. It's in the same way as like, I'm okay if Armando, instead of 15 points a game, has 12, because it means that the other 4 starters and several bench guys, their points per game are raising up as well. I think that goes right in line with when we talk about that diversification of scoring. I like your point about diversification of assisting. I would love for Kendall to be at 10, but I'm great if he's at 5, 6, 7 a game. And that means that Harrison Ingram maybe averaging 3, 4 a game. RJ, 2 or 3 assists a game. Armando, a kick out or 2 a game. Whatever it is, like I'm right there with you. And I would take one of these dudes getting to 40% over Elliot getting 10 assists per game, if we're being honest about it. And because I also have to factor in, I think that RJ and Cormac are both not only hopefully doing that, but doing it with a high volume of attempts, right? Like, to me, Pac, tell me if you think somebody else, those guys are your top 2 in attempts of 3-pointers. Yeah, agreed?
Agreed. Yep.
And so if you get that, let's say they can combine to attempt, 350 threes for the season, 350? That would be 175-ish each. I could live with that. 40% of that's a real good number. And so we'll definitely take that, because it also means there's a nice balance. If those dudes are hitting 40% from 3, what does it mean for a defense, Pac? They got to get out on both of those guys. What does that mean for Armando Bacot? I have free will to do anything I want in the lane.
Yeah, he's about to eat in there if they're shooting like that.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. And, I just think there's a reason why we brought in, Paxton Wojcik and Harrison Ingram. I think those guys fit what we're trying to do, as far as being unselfish and making the selfless play and being better teammates, and in the way we play, just gelling together and being a cohesive unit. And so that's what we're striving for. I think we fill the assists by attrition. I really do. I feel that's one of the things I feel more confident in, but you can't always control whether that ball goes in the basket. So if you're telling me I can get 2 guys that are 40% or better, you just can't pass that up.
No. Ooh. All right. Well, I think our decision is made. It is more impactful for North Carolina to have RJ Davis and Cormac Ryan both shooting 40% from 3, and than it would be for Elliot to average 10 assists per game. And I think it's a very reasonable expectation that he'll have games where he's going to have double-digit assists. But I think a more realistic thing would be 6 or 7 we're looking at there. And that would be honestly just fine, I would say, if I'm looking at it right now as we sit here midweek in the last full week of October. All right, Pac, we got one more question we got to get to today. What if something for Carolina? Cannot wait to find out what's in that bucket. That's question number 2 in the bag. We'll talk about it in just a second. Pull it on out and see what it is right after I tell you that today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time, or you get that money back. Because with the eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive with ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Pack, let's reach into our tub one more time and see what we've got for our final question today of What If Wednesday. It says this: what if UNC has a lackluster start, great word choice there, to the season, meaning in terms of wins and losses? Does that mean it's time to panic, or is it just a function of this team gelling and it's time to be patient? So what if UNC has a lackluster start? Time to panic or time to be patient? Interesting. Pack,
Very, very interesting.
where are you at on this, my man?
For me, I think a lot of it probably depends on why we've gotten off to a lackluster start. Is it, what games is it coming in? Are we losing? Are we losing just to the UConn and the Kentucky and the
Tennessee.
championship of the battle for Atlantis, or is it we're just genuinely struggling? So I would have to look at that. But here's the reality of it, and I think I speak for most people when I say the temperature of the fan base is that we have some concerns.
Yeah.
Especially considering that our non-conference portions of Hubert's first 2 years have left some to be desired. So if we were to get off to a slow start yet again, it would concern me to an extent, because that to me would seem like it's starting to become a habit. And instead of us, adapting and growing and getting better and adjusting so that we can start seasons better than we have the last 2 years. So I would be concerned, but I also think there is a grace period they should receive with the amount of turnover that we've had on this roster. That's just, with this much turnover, it's not going to just step on the floor and just boom, be, playing our best basketball right off the bat. So that takes time. And if we're competing and I can see us growing and getting better from game to game, then I can live with it, because the idea and the object of this is to be playing our best basketball come February and March. And obviously that's the goal, but we also have to win enough games, especially those quad one opportunities, so that we can set ourselves up for success when March does roll around. And so I know it's kind of that's a very wide, broad answer I'm giving you. There's a lot of things to consider. But ultimately, I guess what I'm saying is part of me would be concerned, because I don't want slow starts to the season to become a habit. But the other part of me understands that there does need to be some grace given, because there has been a lot of turnover on this roster. What do you think?
I'm with you, and I really appreciate what you've laid out there, this balancing act that's really tough to strike. Of, we hammer so hard on Coach Davis because we all want to see him try out more rotations, try out more groupings of players together, but then turn around and in the same breath get upset when Carolina loses these games. And so you can't have it both ways, because sometimes if you're trying out your depth, you might drop a game or two due to that. But if you're playing that long view that you're talking about, Pack, of getting ready for February, March, and the first Monday night in April, then I can live with a couple losses right now. Particularly in this age when the transfer portal is making it more difficult than ever, not just for the Tar Heels, but teams all over the nation to gel and come together and figure out who they are, whether that's because of bringing in freshmen or bringing in a bunch of transfers, or a good bit of both. For North Carolina, 7 of the 11 scholarship players on this roster are either freshmen or transfers. As a reminder, there's only 4 returning scholarship players: Armando Bacot, RJ Davis, Jalen Washington, and Seth Trimble. Those are the only dudes. They are the culture setters of this team. Now, obviously, you're going to have a lot of that from a guy like Cormac Ryan in terms of team dynamics, but in terms of Carolina culture, it's got to be those 4 dudes. And so I think there very much is an aspect where we're going to, just like last year, when transfer portal stuff really, really became a massive impact on college basketball, we saw losses that we wouldn't typically see, because teams are still trying to figure out who they are and coaches are still trying to figure out what their teams are. So I think that is part of it. But let me remind us of the Coach Williams era, where there are always a couple games where he's like, y'all, I don't even care because I'm playing for February and March. And you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that those teams were rounding into form in the back half of the ACC conference slate every single year. The problem for us right now is that as we enter into year 3 of Coach Davis, it's as you said, Pac, these first 2 years, the non-conference schedule and even part of the conference part of the schedule hasn't given this team any margin to be able to have some of those hiccups that you'd like to be able to allow. You'd like to allow some space to be able to have a hiccup here or there. But I think because of the way the last 2 years have gone, as you referenced, losing that 4 overtime game to Alabama, losing to Iowa State, losing 2 years ago to UConn and Purdue and Tennessee, not UConn, sorry, Purdue and Tennessee 2 years ago. Like, Carolina is probably going to lose at least one of those 3 games, Tennessee, UConn, and Kentucky. Let's just be honest about that. But what puts this team in a better spot is if they can win at least one of them, hopefully 2, and heck, let's go crazy, 3. Win them all. Why not? But I expect Carolina to drop at least one of those games, but Carolina needs to win one of those 3 games. That's what I'm looking for, to not panic and to be patient. I'm an incredibly patient person. It's one of the fruit of the spirit, and it inhabits my life in a big way. But Carolina has to learn how to win these big games in the non-conference portion of the schedule. So, Pac, I'm watching for that in a big way.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's something that's heavy on these guys' minds too. I don't think it goes unnoticed. I hear it, when they talk. I hear it when Coach Davis talks. I hear it in Bacot's interviews. They talk about it. They realize they haven't lived up to that standard yet, and that's something that they want to do. And I expect them to. I'm not saying I expect them to do it, but I expect them to pursue that and make that a priority. And in coaching, the things that make intentional are the things that your team becomes. And I really, really like what Coach Davis has been saying and preaching so far in his interviews and in his press conferences. I feel good and optimistic about the direction that we're headed. It's just going to take us putting eyes on it and seeing it before we can believe it. And that's fair because, we've been put in that position where, especially last year, we thought we were going to get a specific product on the court and we just flat didn't get it. But props to this staff and this team because they basically said, all right, let's scratch this. Let's get some new pieces in here and let's accomplish what we want to accomplish the way we want to. And so I do feel optimistic about it. I think we're going to have a good start to the season. And I think if we don't, then it's like you said, we need to give them a little bit of grace. We need to figure out a way to win at least one of those big time games. And we just need to keep progressing each day so that we can be playing our best ball come February and March.
Woo, baby. So we got this exhibition game. We got those 3 bye games to start, but then it's straight off to Atlantis. You get a little bit of a breather, the first game of Atlantis against Northern Iowa. But let's not forget, they beat North Carolina Marcus Page's senior season, albeit without him on the court. So let's put that out there. And so it's going to be interesting to see. But I think there will be some panic, Pac. That is the fan base of every sports team ever. If Carolina's off to a lackluster start, there will be panic. But we will need to find patience unless it's just terrible, awful, no good. There goes card number 3. It's been another What If Wednesday. Pac, I love this. I love that we've been doing it. Hard to believe that we'll probably do this again next week. But then the week after that, we're going to be talking about a regular season game and what happened in it. 2 weeks from right now, Pac Kilby. Wrap your brain around that. Folks, Coach Rob will be on with me tomorrow. Another great conversation with him. Looking forward to that. And then on Friday, we'll get you ready for hopefully a bounce back game in Atlanta this weekend for the Tar Heels. Pac. I'm just going to do this for the rest of the show. Folks, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels. Thanks so much for joining us. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Heels. You can follow Pac at Coach_K23. Follow me at Isaac Schade. Want to invite you again, come join our Discord. It's a great conversation. We got people coming in every day, joining that community. Just Locked On Tar Heels, folks, coming together to talk more. I love it, and you will love it too, I promise you. Email us lockedontarheels@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, smash the like button. And for those of you watching, we'd love for you to drop your thoughts on these questions in the comments. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be right back with you tomorrow. But until then, peace.